might be true. The Eagles are still heavy favorites. This is their dual pass. The Eagles have Chargers, Raiders, Commanders, Bills, Commanders, while the Cowboys have the Lions again on Thursday. Vikings, Chargers, Commanders, Giants. Man, I could see it. So, are you giving the Cowboys any chance to catch the Eagles?
Leave that up for a second, because it's very simple. The Cowboys have to win 2 more games than Philadelphia does.
Yeah.
So let's just assume the Cowboys go 4-1. Because I think just saying that, oh, if they run the table, man, it's very, very hard to run the table.
Yep.
So 4-1, though, to me, it's like, okay, go 2-1 against the Lions, Chargers, and at the Commanders, and beat the teams you're definitively supposed to beat, the Vikings and Giants. That's doable.
Yep.
Can you see Philadelphia going 2-3? That's the question. The question is that simple to me. Can you see Philadelphia losing 3 of those games? And
I see 2.
I have so little faith in the Eagles' infrastructure, even though I have so much faith in the overall talent of the roster, that I could see them winning their next 2, and then at the Commanders getting clipped with Jaden being back. That's a divisional road game. At the Bills in a game the Bills need, and then finding themselves in, oh my God, we're at home in Week 18, where if we win the division, and if we lose, the Cowboys win the division.
You could start getting booed in the first quarter.
Correct. And so, that's where the more logical path would be they lose to the Chargers. They lose their 3 road games, essentially. At the Chargers, at the Commanders, at the Bills. And that's how it happens. But I think Philly's D-line is good enough to beat the Chargers alone. Like the Chargers banged up offensive line, Philly D-line, that should swing that game. I just don't trust right now, Brew, Philadelphia's ability to stave off a 2023-esque collapse.
Well, I think the chances are very slim that the Cowboys can pass them. They're not non-existent. Yeah. And I will change I think this week's game is huge. I don't think Philly has fallen off as much as you do. I feel like they're fine. You lose some games in the regular season. You have some bad performances, but they have championship mettle. They'll be fine. If they lose to the Chargers, 3 straight losses, that's when I will believe the supernatural funk is here.
Okay.
So if they lose to the Chargers, it could be worse than you point out. If they lose to the Chargers and the funk comes back, they darn near lost out 2 years ago.
Yep.
After going 10-1. So I think they could really fall off, and that would be the problem. But I expect them to beat the Chargers, and then they'll be fine, and they'll hold off the Cowboys.
So when I'm back in this seat, I can just tell more ridiculous stories. When I'm over there, I have to do hardcore.
You got Reddit posts?
No, I've read one Reddit post. I was in a relationship.
Wow. This will be good.
This will be good. This is serious.
Lean in here.
It's like early 20s. And we went on a double date.
Early 2020s?
Early 20s. I was in mid-20s. I was 20-something. And we went out on a double date with another couple who eventually got married. And I thought I was in a good relationship. And then I saw how they were interacting. I was like, oof. You guys are really in love, huh? I thought I was doing good. Wow. But I was like, we don't rock like that.
Yeah.
When you say that the Eagles are fine, the Patriots are fine, we see the Bears locker room is fine. I see how the vibes in Seattle are fine. The Rams are fine. The Eagles are not fine, man. They're not even close to fine.
The Carolina
but the vibes, all right. How about the Bears
if the Eagles lost to the Carolina Panthers, this is what we do with the Eagles. We were doing this last year. A.J. Brown's reading books on the sideline, and we think they're in trouble.
They're in trouble. So two very quick things. First one, what I thought you were going to say is the relationship between coach and quarterback that's going to be the dichotomy Monday night. Between Jim Harbaugh, who's like, I will fight and die
for the best
Justin
quarterback
Herbert,
of all time.
the best quarterback of all time, and then what has always seemed to be, a marriage of convenience between Sirianni and Hurts. I thought that's where you were going with it. Here's what I would say to you, Brew. If we were to say all of the teams in the league that are 8-4 or better, power rank them and most likely to collapse. Yep. I think everyone would have Indy right now number 1.
Yes.
Because the quarterback's got a hairline fracture.
He's got a broken leg.
And then the next two picks, I think, would probably be the two teams playing this weekend.
All right, this is going to be a compelling topic to unpack. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. It is an undeniable, absolute, unequivocal possibility, without a shadow of a doubt, that this team could miss the postseason altogether. The core reason is straightforward. They are not performing at a level commensurate with playoff qualification. This is the fundamental truth of their current predicament. I have consistently critiqued the pervasive sense of a supernatural funk surrounding this squad, a term I've repeatedly referenced, and have extensively dissected the coaching deficiencies, particularly on the defensive side, in numerous segments. I've also maintained that their earlier 10-1 record was profoundly deceptive, an illusion of success propped up by little more than duct tape and glue, an unsustainable facade that was bound to collapse. That is simply the reality of the situation. This current season presents some parallels, primarily stemming from the coaching, specifically the offensive coordination. However, a critical distinction must be drawn. I believe this roster possesses a fundamentally superior talent base, features a significantly more stable defensive unit anchored by Vic Fangio's scheme, and most importantly, operates with the intrinsic confidence of a group that has already secured a Lombardi trophy. They possess the tangible knowledge of what it takes to reach the summit. They have the requisite players and the invaluable experience. Yet, the inconvenient historical precedent from their 2023 campaign cannot be ignored. We witnessed them falter against backup quarterbacks and inferior opponents, descending into a palpable freefall. I am not asserting they are in that precise nadir now, but to dismiss the possibility of a similar downward spiral would be to view their circumstances through an irresponsibly optimistic and dishonest lens. The central problem, a theme I revisit often, including in a recent discussion about the Detroit Lions, is the indispensable role of competent coaching in troubleshooting and problem-solving. This is the precise capability the Eagles are desperately lacking at this juncture. When you examine other franchises navigating rough patches, your instinct is to rely on their coaching staff to engineer a correction. For instance, if the Eagles' defense encounters systemic issues, the immediate question is, can Vic Fangio diagnose and rectify the problem? The reliance isn't on a player like Cooper Kupp to simply play better. It's on Fangio to devise a schematic solution to a specific vulnerability. That is the logical chain of command. Consider a hypothetical where Matthew Stafford suddenly enters a phase of prolific turnovers. The immediate scrutiny would fall on Sean McVay. How will you fix this, Sean? Will you commit to the run game? Implement quicker passes? Utilize more screens? The search for answers leads directly to the head coach and his coordinators. That is the standard operating procedure. Now, the Los Angeles Rams recently lost to the Carolina Panthers. That can be filed under fluke. Stafford's uncharacteristic turnovers in that contest also feel like an anomaly. In contrast, the Eagles' offensive inconsistency is, by its very definition, a consistent trait. Their inability to sustain drives is not a fluke. It is a pattern. When they repeatedly go 3 and out or endure entire quarters or halves of offensive futility, no one rational attributes it to random misfortune. They acknowledge it as a systemic, recurring issue. This is the established pattern. The predicament deepens when you lack a coaching figure in whom you can place foundational trust. If the Eagles still had a Shane Steichen or a Kellen Moore, there would at least be a reservoir of belief. One could argue, Steichen has navigated this before. Or Moore understands Jalen Hurts' rhythms and how to optimize A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Saquon Barkley. That sense of assured competency is entirely absent right now. My analytical framework is inherently coach-centric. I perceive football through the prism of scheme, preparation, and in-game adjustment. This perspective should be evident to anyone familiar with my commentary. While player execution is undeniably paramount, the coaching structure sets the conditions for that execution. I recall the Eagles' victory over the Minnesota Vikings earlier this season, where Jalen Hurts delivered a spectacular performance, amassing over 360 yards and a perfect passer rating. In the aftermath, while celebrating the necessary and exciting result, I voiced underlying concerns. A significant portion of that offensive explosion stemmed from Hurts operating off-script, extending plays, and creating magic outside the design structure. It was not a masterclass in offensive orchestration by Kevin Patullo. I did not watch that game and think, what a brilliantly conceived game plan. The credit belonged overwhelmingly to the players, to Hurts, Smith, and Brown. Their individual brilliance masked the schematic shortcomings. This reliance on player heroics presents a profound sustainability problem. You cannot perpetually depend on the transcendent talent of your roster to overcome schematic deficiencies week after week. It is an unsustainable model for success. Even in their Week 1 triumph over the Dallas Cowboys, the pivotal moments and touchdown drives were heavily reliant on Hurts' individual playmaking. Crucial conversions on scrambles or improvised throws when the called play broke down. What I yearn to witness is a Kevin Patullo dialing up a strategically sound play on a critical 3rd and 4, where a receiver springs wide open due to excellent design and prior setup. That evidence of cohesive, intelligent offensive coaching has been conspicuously sparse. The few instances I can recall, certain tight end concepts or a specific play involving Dallas Goedert, stand out precisely because they are exceptions. Therefore, to harbor an unshakable, unconditional confidence in this Eagles team feels unjustified. The retort, but they won a Super Bowl. Jalen is an MVP candidate. They have elite weapons. While factually true, misses the point. All these formidable components still require integration and synchronization through effective coaching. That connective tissue is currently frayed or missing. The defensive performance against the Chicago Bears was equally troubling, and I place that responsibility on Vic Fangio. The strategic decision to consistently dare a run-heavy team to run, rather than forcing them into less comfortable situations, struck me as fundamentally flawed. This aligns with an Eagles philosophical stance I've long disagreed with, a stubborn commitment to doing what we do best and challenging opponents to beat us at our own game, rather than tactically forcing them to play left-handed. This philosophy, even when it yielded results last season, demands flawless execution at an elite level from every player, every single week, a standard that is simply unsustainable over a long season. My current assessment places Fangio and the defensive staff in a different category than the offensive brain trust. While the defense had a poor outing against Chicago, partially excused by being on the field incessantly due to offensive ineptitude, I retain a baseline trust that Fangio could devise adjustments to prevent a repeat performance in a rematch. I have zero such confidence in Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni regarding the offense. If the Eagles face the Bears again tomorrow, I have no faith we wouldn't witness an identical offensive debacle. That is the crux of my concern. Listening to Sirianni discuss evaluating everything rings hollow because there is no tangible evidence that he or Patullo possess actionable solutions. They have not demonstrated that capability across the entire season. A comment I saw, echoing a clip from Richard Sherman, resonated deeply. Sherman was mercilessly criticizing Patullo's play calling. Now, I'm not a particular devotee of Sherman's commentary, but he has never been shy about criticizing players or quarterbacks either. The fact that his ire was directed not at Jalen Hurts, but squarely at the coaching perspective, lambasting the predictability and poor design, is telling. When former players still deeply connected to the game's intricacies are universally pointing at the sideline, it underscores a profound failure. If the root cause is indeed inadequate coaching, that problem does not magically resolve itself. It is profoundly disappointing that the Eagles' leadership appears unwilling or unable to make a decisive intervention to rectify the situation, even incrementally. Their midseason firings in 2023 were a panic-stricken response that backfired, and now they seem paralyzed by the fear of admitting another monumental mistake, particularly with a first-year coordinator like Patullo. They fear the potential locker room fallout of such an admission. I understand the logistical constraints. You cannot simply import an external offensive coordinator in December and expect him to install a new system overnight. However, inaction is not the only alternative. Bringing in a seasoned offensive mind as a consultant or advisor, even to work within the existing playbook, could yield benefits. A fresh perspective could analyze the rhythm of the play calling, identify tendencies being exploited, and suggest better sequencing to set up plays. A new voice might simply be more adept at reading defensive alignments and calling plays accordingly. Even with identical personnel in plays, a different play caller can produce different outcomes through better timing and situational awareness. Alternatively, an external analyst could examine the film and state the obvious. You're over-reliant on concept X. We need to diversify towards concept Y. There are always levers to pull and adjustments to make. The Eagles' current stance of doing nothing is the most damning aspect. This inertia was highlighted in my earlier critique regarding the underutilization of a player like Tank Bigsby. The issue isn't about replacing Saquon Barkley. It's about introducing a strategic wrinkle, a change of pace that keeps a defense slightly off balance. Every other competitive team employs these tactics, using multiple backs, deploying receivers in motion, creating innovative touches. The Eagles' offense, in stark contrast, appears static and predictable. The common rebuttal, that the playbook is simplified due to Jalen Hurts, is a flawed excuse that insults both the quarterback's intelligence and the coach's creativity. It doesn't explain why they can't design simple, effective plays to get the ball to A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith in space behind the line of scrimmage. These are basic, executable concepts used league-wide. Watching Josh Allen operate with two running backs in the backfield, creating a moment of defensive hesitation, is a prime example. It's a simple, coachable wrinkle that any quarterback can run. The Eagles seem wholly averse to even these fundamental layers of innovation. This lack of ingenuity is what frustrates the fan base to its core. The prevailing sentiment in the comments I read is a desperate plea. Just give us something. Show a spark of strategic life. When you can't even implement a minor tweak in the run game or a new pre-snap look, it signals a profound coaching failure. This is why fixating on Jalen Hurts' occasional inaccuracy or the offensive line's sporadic struggles almost feels like a diversion, a red herring. Yes, those individuals could perform better, but the coaching staff is fundamentally failing in its primary duty, to construct a scheme and make calls that make the lives of those players easier. They are not providing a framework for success. They are relying on superstars to build the framework themselves, play after play. That is not coaching. That is abdication. When the architecture of the offense does nothing to alleviate pressure, create easy opportunities, or outsmart the opponent, it becomes a massive, potentially insurmountable problem. The weight of every play, every drive, falls entirely on the shoulders of the athletes to overcome not only the opposing defense, but also the limitations of their own play sheet. In a league where margins are razor thin, that is a burden too heavy to bear consistently. And it is the definitive reason why the Philadelphia Eagles, for all their talent and pedigree, are staring down the very real possibility of watching the playoffs from home. But those are my comprehensive thoughts. I am absolutely eager to hear yours. What is your assessment of the Philadelphia Eagles' current crisis? Do you believe they are in genuine danger of missing the postseason entirely, potentially ceding the division to the Dallas Cowboys? Please share your analysis and predictions in the comment section below. I read every single comment. Whether you find yourself in full agreement or vehement disagreement with my perspective, let's engage in a substantive, passionate dialogue. Let's debate, let's discuss, but ultimately, let's share in the collective experience of dissecting this great game. Please consider subscribing to the channel. We are building a fantastic, engaged community here, and I would be thrilled to have you join us. The goal is to create a connected space we are all excited to be a part of, and I believe we are making significant progress. Also, if you could give this video a thumbs up, it genuinely assists with visibility and helps the channel grow through the platform's algorithm. Thank you so much for your time and engagement. I look forward to connecting with you next time.